Welcome to Aussie Lawn Stars.
Welcome to Aussie Lawn Stars. Do you want to leave your job to create a profitable and enjoyable lawn and garden business? Aussie Lawn Stars shares the stories, lessons and advice to help you grow a healthy, productive, efficient and sustainable business. Do you want more or simply have a question about what you heard? Contact Aussie Lawn Stars at iCloud.com or look me up, Gary Ashton, on Facebook and Messenger for individual help. Business coaching helps you to have the right mindset and perspective when it comes to daily decision making, planning, or knowing what to look for to improve your business. thinktankcoaching.com.au has helped me, and they can help you move towards your business goals. Visit their website or email them, thinktankcoaching@outlook.com. If you want to establish the best practices in bookkeeping, accounting and business structure, contact Adrian from Prosper Financial on 0249 773363. And you all need to head to Lawn Mowing Contractors Australia and the Australian Professional Lawn Contractors Facebook groups for supportive communities focused on our industry.
Gary.
Grant, welcome to the dungeon.
Thank you.
So your name's Grant Little?
Yes.
And you're in Lismore?
Yep. And I've been in Northern New South Wales, fun country.
In the middle of a bit of flooding happening at the moment?
Yeah, minor flooding at the moment. So
we're expecting a lot more rain over the next 24 hours, or probably 48 hours. So it's probably going to just get a little bit wetter.
Yeah. So hopefully it moves off us fairly quickly. Is what they're predicting, but yeah, with it being a south coast low, whoever it stalls over, it moves further south, it's going to cop it. So
yeah,
hopefully everyone's prepared and as much as they can be.
Yeah, well, I'm about 6 hours south from you, so we're starting to get some heavier rain come through at the moment, and I think it's just going to get more and more over the next day or so.
Yeah.
Should be fun. So, Grant, you've been in business for quite a while, haven't you?
Yeah, since 2004, so it's almost 20 years.
Wow, so yeah, a lot longer than me.
Yeah, when I think about it, it's like, my God, 20 years. Like, yeah, it's gets by very, very quickly. And, yeah, wow.
You've got a little bit more colour in your hair than what I do, so are you younger than me?
No, I'm 48 this year. So.
Okay, so you're about 12 months older than me, so I'm turning 47 in a minute.
Yeah.
I think, what's the date? The 4th today? So, yeah, literally this time next week I'll be 47.
Yeah.
So we're probably very similar in age in that regard, 12 months apart, but you've been in business a lot longer than I have, and you've done a few interesting things in your business. So I'd like to go back to the start and look at what you started doing. And whilst we're doing that, I know you and I also share interest with motorbikes.
Yep. So I do like riding bikes. I don't get on as much as I would like, but it's just life, I suppose. And
yeah. So what sort of motorbikes do you ride?
So I've got two at the moment, two KTMs. I've got an LC4, which is a bit older bike, but it's a 640 motard.
Yep.
And surprisingly, and I don't know how, but it's a Lamb's bike. It's so much power, I don't know. It's just going to weigh 150 kilos, so that sort of pushes it into Lamb's.
Yeah.
But by crikey, you'll fit it on a back wheel in second and third gear very, very easily.
Yeah.
And then I also just got a KTM 350 XC.
Nice.
So I'm just been trying to get some parts for it so I can get it registered for the road so I can ride it in the bush legally.
Yeah.
Get around the roads. Also use it to go and do quotes and just checking on lawns during winter time. So
nice.
Yeah, it helps getting on a bit more.
Yeah, I'm looking around at getting a mid-size adventure bike at the moment, which is sort of similar to what you're talking about with your 640, the LC4. The KTM 690 is what I'm looking at, and it's very similar. I think it's just slightly newer engine with a few extra CCs in there, but very similar basic engine.
Yeah.
And, I'm debating at the moment, can I get that and keep the two-stroke and the road bike? And interestingly, the wife said something last week about something. I was like, what's this? And she says, oh, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. And I was like, right. So same thing applies if I buy a third motorbike. And she didn't agree with me.
Well, the perfect number of motorbikes is one more than you have at the moment.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I think, she's basically given me permission to ask for forgiveness instead of asking for permission.
I'd all have to say you've got permission already. Because they're saying that.
Me.
So, anyway.
She did make one caveat. She's like, well, if you can find where the money's coming from. And I was like, okay, done. I don't think that was quite her words, but yeah.
That's what you heard. That's the important thing.
Yeah, it's like, all right, done. Easy. The 3 motorbikes.
Yeah.
Anyway, Grant, let's look at your business, because a lot of people get sick of me talking about motorbikes.
Oh.
That's their problem. But yeah. So you started in 2004?
4. Yeah.
And I'm guessing you've been in Lismore the entire time.
Yeah. So I moved back I spent 10 years in Kalgoorlie, in WA, in mining. And then I just got sick of the isolation. And then my father, he was mowing lawns here in Lismore. Okay. And he wanted me to come back and, get him a hand doing, because he had a few large properties and whatever. And so when I'd moved back, I'd come back on holidays. We looked around, found a run. It was decent.
Yeah.
No, I think I paid $6,000. Okay. And with that, I've got 30 lawns, couple of, probably half commercial, half residential. I've got a busted ass old trailer, which was terrible. We just went straight to the tip. And I think I've got a self-propelled Honda, a NTD split shaft.
Yeah.
And an old, I think it was a Hyundai blower. So, so there wasn't much. And then I used to tow that around with a Falcon. So the family Falcon was, and then I was lucky, because Dad had already been mowing, he had his old, the first zero turn he had, which was a 25 horse. I think it was a 255, 25 horse petrol, 5-foot zero turn.
Yeah.
So you said, well, you can use that until you buy your own, which is only sort of 6 months later. Yeah. So that was, and I had actually bought a 6x10 trailer in WA and moved half and stuff back when I come back.
Yeah.
So was using that to get that around. So
say 6x10.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fairly decent size. That's wide enough to be annoying when you're driving in town.
Oh yeah, you do notice because it's like I've got a Land Cruiser now, and she's getting a good foot outside either side of the ute, the Land Cruiser.
Yep. So
you do notice it as a wet, but you learn to cope with it, and you got to swing out a little bit wider.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it takes a bit of effort then to get around with that, but gives you good options when it comes to what size mower you can run, because 6 foot, you pretty much fit any 60-inch machine on quite comfortably. Yeah,
and I could actually even get 6 foot mowers in it. So the old bloke, when he built it for me, it was supposed to be 6 foot, but he must have big 6 feet because, I can get a 6 foot mower inside the trailer. So which is actually really good because I can take 6 foot mowers around, which I've got miles. But
Yeah. I found that with some trailers, I hired a trailer to do something before, and I hired a 5 foot wide trailer. And I thought, you know what, 5 foot wide should be 1,500 inside. And I just made the assumption that that was correct, and it was wrong. It was actually 5 foot wide outside to outside.
yeah,
So I was not happy with that because it was just too narrow for what I needed it for, and I'd already paid the hire fee, and he wouldn't give it back on.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, measure for you. Do stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I went the hard way on that one. I made the assumption and it was wrong. So never mind.
Mm.
So when you started straight in with a zero turn as well as the push mower.
Yes.
And you said you had about 30 customers.
Yeah, that was the one I bought, and then Dad gave me a few of his jobs because he had, he probably had about 70 odd lawns, I reckon.
Yeah, okay.
And some of those were big jobs that were like 2 5-foot zeros running for 8-9 hours.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was some big jobs that he did have on the books already. And as I said, and then as a new come along, he just kept on pushing it all onto me. And this, that was 2004, so that's before Facebook was a thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was only Yellow Pages, the paper copy.
Yeah.
Or the newspaper. That was the only advertising. Or letterbox drops.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was much harder to sort of get going in business back then because you just didn't have the reach. A lot of word of mouth.
Yeah.
So, which is, I still use word of mouth now as one of my best, I think.
Yeah,
So,
it is, isn't it? It makes I guess in terms of what we're doing, word of mouth is probably the one thing that runs your business.
Yeah.
You can do a lot of different things, but word of mouth really can make or break a business. And I've heard a few different people talk differently about this, but I'm going to stick with that. I believe it's really important to keep good word of mouth so that your business, your existing customers and potential customers all basically will trust your business based on knowing somebody else who's used your business.
Yeah, that's right. It's like people recommending, oh yeah, I've got this car. I love this car. And it is a positive reinforcement of themselves.
Yeah.
But because it's coming from someone they know and they trust, that's why it's such a positive tool.
Yep.
And word of mouth, direct word of mouth, whereas if someone bad mouthed you because they weren't happy, that sort of word of mouth dies. We're on Facebook now or social media. That stays there forever almost.
Yeah.
So it's that's why the direct word of mouth is such a better tool, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would agree.
But,
it's like if you rely on advertising to get your business out there, and particularly with the sort of work we do where it's all repeat work, then you're not going to have the same business model, are you? It's just not going to give you the same results at all.
That's right. And some of the areas that they're working, you get the same customers. So you go into a cul-de-sac and there might be 10 acres in a cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
And your neighbour goes, well, you do a lot for this person. Then the neighbour, they've got another couple of acres. And then the next neighbour, they've got another couple of acres. And you're targeting all the same type of clients. So it's really easy. So it's great, I think. But also, sometimes it is a little bit harder to get going at times. Yeah, it's what you have to do.
Yeah, it can be harder to get going, but at the end of the day, that word of mouth is what keeps you going. So
Yeah,
if you're starting from scratch without any leads and you're just working off word of mouth, you have no word of mouth when you start. But as you gain business, then that word of mouth takes over very quickly.
yeah, it does.
Yeah, I've talked to a few people who do different lines of work, and I think this is worth looking into with what you do. But in our industry, you'll have some people who do one-off jobs, and particularly if you're talking tree work or, say, overgrown jobs, those sorts of things, a lot of those jobs will rely on cold marketing, advertising, if you don't have an existing customer base that will point you in the right direction, because one-off jobs are not the same as your routine maintenance. And
Yeah,
some of the businesses I've talked to have had to rely on marketing through Google and Facebook groups and, various different outlets to make sure that they have those one-off jobs coming in continuously to keep them busy. So I think with your business now, that's changed a bit from when you first started with, so with the first startup, your jobs would have been mostly in a mix of residential around town and acreage.
yeah.
Whereas now you've changed your business model where you include some earth moving equipment.
Yeah. So that, and nearly all that is still word of mouth. It's just people just people who know me when they know I've got the gear. But everybody, as soon as they bought the stuff, I was like, absolutely everybody. By the way, I've got this and I'm getting this. Oh, and it's just amazing. Oh, then they'll say, oh, I've got a friend who's looking for somebody, and really, once everybody knows you've got the gear, and especially if it's a specialised type gear, when we do specialised work, it really does help push that along. So, when using the excavators and the posse, because it's small stuff, like, and all their everybody's yards near blocks and that, they're all getting so small, so it's very tight access. Yeah. So it's massive plus that, and that's why I actually went down that line. You can buy a next size up, and you will not get it into any of the yards. So
let's talk about that from two aspects, right? One, in my area, when I was growing up, most of the properties were larger than 1,000 square metres, or probably at least bigger than 800 square metres. And quite a few properties were small acreage. Nowadays, there's a whole heap of new subdivisions going in around here where the properties are 400 or 500 square metre blocks, and that changes things massively. But what's Lismore look like now? Do you have a range of properties from the residential blocks that are your old quarter acre blocks? You have a lot of new subdivisions going in?
Yeah, we're starting to get some new subdivisions going in. There's actually been quite a bit of the council actually put a stop on all new developments for nearly 10 years.
Wow.
And so that actually caused a massive shortfall.
Yep.
And now, because of the floods down on the flats, they decided, we've got to push this along now.
Yep.
So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 new developments going in.
Wow. And
those blocks range from 400 up to 700, I think, most of them. And they and it's just because New South Wales planning has actually pushed all of the developers, because they want the density housing so high now, push them into smaller blocks. And so that's just the way, and it's the way it's going everywhere, I know. It's very difficult. Well, if you want to build a decent sized house and have a shed.
So when it comes to your earth moving equipment, which is the second point that I wanted to make there, like I know what it's like if you've got a 1.8 ton excavator, you can get the track width down pretty tight and get through into a fairly tight gate on those under 1 metre.
Yeah, I can get through a 900 mil gate.
Yep.
Very, very tight, but I can do it.
Yeah. So how do you go with the posi track? What's the width on that one?
The posi's 1200, so that makes it, if you've got a bulk amount of stuff you've got to move, you do have to get a bit more creative with, negotiating with neighbours.
Yeah.
Or
taking a fence panel out.
Yeah. That is more a challenge, but some of this, if you get the excavator in and you can get the bulk of the hard work done, well, you're a lot further ahead than using a pick and jackhammer. So
yeah, I know what you mean, because it makes a massive difference if you can get earth moving equipment into a job. I got asked to do a job a few years ago that was because I had an excavator, and when I got there, looked at the job and it was a really steep slope, and I was like, there's no way I'm using the excavator on that job. It was a hand cleanup job, and it's not something I wanted to do, but it's like, okay, put a stupid price on it and say I'm not doing it for nothing, and they've already been given stupid prices by other people, so mine actually seemed quite appealing to them.
Yeah.
Which was unfortunate. I was happy to do the job, but it was like, no, I should have put a more stupid price on it.
Yeah, I know. You get those, but they're hard to gauge sometimes, those ones. But anyway.
Yeah, but I know I quoted one job that was like that. It was an excavator job, and I went and looked at it, and the access was really tight at one of those small residential properties, which actually has a backyard, but the gate was 900 mil, but then it had some landscaping sandstone blocks beside the gate and around the front of the house, which meant that you had to turn the excavator, get it up these sandstone blocks, and then twist it around to get lined up to go through that 900 mil gate.
Yeah.
Just to do a bit of drainage in the backyard.
Yeah.
I looked at that and I said, nope, I'm not doing it.
Yeah. Yes. It's and that's part of what I actually enjoy is the technical side of it, is how good you can be without whacking something. It's it's a massive challenge sometimes. And when you pull it off and you don't whack a fence or a wall, or it's a real feel good. So
yeah, it's not just a feel good though. That also goes back to that word of mouth. If you get known as being the operator that can operate in those tight spaces and not wreck things, doing a good job, and then those customers refer you on to other people. And particularly, like we're saying, with the number of new subdivisions going in at the moment, you're going to be the first one to be called if you've got that name for, I've got the right equipment and I do a good job.
Yeah, that's right.
So what's the craziest job you've done with it, your earth moving?
Craziest jobs. Oh, there was one where some people there was a new build, split the old house. The builders put in a rock wall, but then there's another retaining wall above the rock wall because they didn't go high enough.
Yeah.
And so I got a hold of some steel ramps where the peg bang down to the ground.
Yeah.
Sitting there, and I was driving the posi in the excavator in and out these ramps. It went on for a couple of weeks, and she was pretty gnarly coming back down it with a buckload of dirt or rock. And then that's probably and it's just because they were old ramps, so you didn't know if one was going to break at some stage, and then you're going to topple over.
Yeah.
And then also jump up to get up. So we just come up past the garage. It was quite steep to come up. And there's one day there, a shower of rain halfway through the day. I couldn't get the machines back in because it was just so slippery. Even though the tracks are so much better than tide machines, but yeah, even the tracks wouldn't go over it. It's just I've learned from mining, like you have a crack, but there's a point, you draw the point somewhere, and because that's when you will do damage to either the machines or property, and you really do. That's what separates. Yeah, that's what I think a good operator to what a cowboy is.
So that being knowing when to say no, I can't do that, and being capable of doing jobs which other people won't do, but also turning down what's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's right. It's when saying no, it's really and it's just same as mowing lawns. You just got to know when to say no, because it's not. It's smarter to walk away and come back at a better time than to bugger things up.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we see stories regularly of people who have made mistakes and have the photos to prove it. Yep.
And that's what 20 years is. And I was extremely lucky. Well, so when I started, Dad was told by the mower shop, "Oh yeah, mow up and down the slopes." And like Dad, it took him a while to figure out. No, you cut across the slopes because you get better traction.
Yeah.
Because once you're facing downhill on the zero, you pretty much go. You take off.
Yeah.
I've done that a number of times. And I was very lucky that Dad had actually learnt the hard way, and he taught me a lot of things.
Yeah.
But saying that, over the years, I have rolled 2 zeros.
Wow. And
lucky enough that I didn't get hurt. So, I know a lot of people have. So, so when to say no,
I've been using stand-on mowers at the moment, stand-on zero turns, and when you're working on slopes, the stand-on allows you to get your centre of gravity down at the level of your feet, which is great because you can literally work on a steeper slope with a stand-on than you can with a sit-down zero turn. But you're also very mindful of that when you're moving your weight around, because it's like, okay, whilst the centre of gravity is going to be where my feet are, if I lean the wrong direction, that's going to throw the weight of the machine around quite a lot.
Yeah.
So you become very mindful when you're working on slopes that you lean up the slope and you make sure that you're getting that centre of gravity where it needs to be so that it can keep on working. But it's pretty fragile.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, I've only had a couple of goes at the zeros, the stand-on zero.
Yeah.
I just more like the idea of sitting. I can use my hands better.
Yeah.
You do have almost, it's not a limited movement, but your movements are smaller, aren't they? Because you're only controlling your machine with your hands.
Yeah, that's right.
So
yeah, the stand-ons do give you an advantage to be able to move your body weight around. And I think I've thought about trying to show a diagram of this, but if you picture a zero-turn sit-down machine on a slope, then your weight is on the machine at the level of the seat. So the more the slope, the more your weight is over the outside wheel, whereas when your weight is going through your feet on a stand-on, it's down very close to the ground level. It's in between the rear wheels. And it's that your whole body weight is getting put onto the machine down really low. So if you lean up the slopes, then you're keeping your centre of gravity in the right place so that you can keep the machine better balanced in that regard. But sit-downs do offer advantages over stand-ons in a lot of ways too. If you're doing a lot of work on a machine and you're on it for hours and hours, depending on your age, like I said, you're a year older than me, you start going, if I'm sitting on a machine for 5 hours straight, my back starts hurting a little bit. But if I'm standing on a machine for 5 hours straight, my knees start hurting a little bit.
Yeah, I could only imagine standing up for 5 hours, getting bounced. It's pretty. I just rather sit down. And I know it's probably an older thing, maybe. Some of the younger guys who are on and off. And I can really see the advantages of small yards when you're on and off moving stuff.
Yep.
But that's targeting the bigger stuff. So
I've found, and we won't go on with this too much because I want to know more about what you do. But what I'll say to finish up on this, with the stand-on machines, I've found that they do offer some advantages. But ideally, if you're doing a lot of mowing, where you're on a mower all day rather than doing residential jobs where you spend 10 minutes to half hour on a machine and then another 10 minutes to half hour doing the whippersnipping and then the blowing and back and forth. But if you're on larger jobs where you're on a mower for multiple hours or you're on a mower all day, ideally it would be good to be able to go, okay, I'm going to spend half an hour on the mower or 2 hours on the mower, and then I'm going to put that one aside and I'm going to swap over from the sit down to the stand on, and then after I've done that for a little while, I'll swap back over from the stand on back to the sit down, and that way you're giving your body a break.
Yeah, it would be great. We just can't have that many mowers with us.
Well, if you work for a large company where you're doing a job and they're doing a work health and safety assessment on the job, what you find is most large companies will say you can't be doing the same thing for more than about 15 to 20 minutes without taking a break. So I've looked at that and gone, okay, I need to do the same thing. When I've got an employee working with me, you need to take breaks. If you're whippersnipping for 2 hours straight, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
And, all of us being self-employed at some stage have whippersnipped for 2 hours or 6 hours straight. I think I've done like 10 hours straight on one job. But it's not good for you.
No. I don't think I've ever done that.
Yeah. Well, I think you would have seen me doing the cemetery. I haven't done cemetery for about 4 years now, but when I was doing the cemetery, that was like there was literally 10 to 12 hours of whippersnipping to do. So somebody would be mowing, somebody would be whippersnipping. You'd try and make sure that you change the jobs up, but there were days where I was doing it on my own and I'd just keep on whippersnipping.
Yeah, right.
And
that's a lot of whipping.
It is.
Wow.
It is. And you're doing a mix of vertical edges as well as flat edging on the cemetery. So that, takes its toll on your body when you're doing it for that amount.
Yeah, your trapezium's just absolutely nailed.
Yeah. I found probably my elbows were the worst affected by it.
Yeah.
The bunch of things you can go, all right, I can deal with that and it's okay, I'll be fine. But then you go, okay, after a while, I'm like, all right, my shoulders are getting a bit sore. My elbows actually were the worst off. So you get a bit of tennis elbow or golfer's elbow happening from the repetitive strain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really no, those are my traps that would hurt me. So
yeah, fair.
Mm.
Yeah, so anyway. I think that's the one recommendation I would have is if you're doing a lot of mowing, then ideally, like if you're working for a large company or you're running multiple employees, you start thinking about going, okay, what am I providing my employees? Is it a single job where they are in one position for multiple hours, and then how do I make sure they get a break?
Yeah, you do have to. You've got to think for them.
Oh yeah,
and because they'll just if you give them a job, they'll just keep going. Hopefully, and they don't think about breaking for themselves really. So you do have to. It's a better part of being a boss. You think for everybody.
Yep.
So it's tough. Yeah.
I find I'm doing that at the moment. The employee I've got working for me now, she is awesome as an employee. She is always striving to do a better job. But I will frequently say, okay, I want you to do some whippersnipping, but I want you to stop before you get sore because you're no use to me as an employee if you're too sore to keep working.
Yeah.
So I want you to do some whippersnipping, but you're going to get sent out with a whippersnipper and a blower, and then once you've done a little bit of work there, you're going to take a break and you're going to go and do some gardening or some hedge trimming or something else. And she struggles with that because she wants to see the job finished, right? You get job satisfaction when you're doing small jobs where you're like, okay, I can see that I've finished the whip snipping and the blowing and the mowing and it looks great. Move on.
Yeah.
On a big job, you got to pace yourself.
Yeah. I did it to myself on Tuesday. I done 2.5 hours of topiary hedge. I was actually getting back into a topiary shape, all these bushes that have been neglected for quite some time. And it was 30 odd degrees, middle of the day, and I was knackered. I felt it the next day too.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to finish it off, so I had to. I was already running late, and
I found the elephant trunk brilliant for doing that sort of work. And it doesn't suit every kind of hedge trimming job, but it takes the weight of the hedge trimmer so that you can focus on where you place the hedge trimmer without having the whole weight going through your shoulders and your traps.
Yeah.
But it can get in the road if you're doing intricate jobs where you're trying to get into tight spaces with the topiary.
Yeah. Hopefully I've got them contained and that'll be right from now on.
Yeah. No. So what sort of job was that? Was that was that doing a lot of balls or that sort of thing?
A lot of balls.
Yeah, like you said, it was topiary hedging. So I'm just wondering was it shapes?
Yeah, so I had to, it was, most of them were lily pillies and, just the ball on top.
Yep.
There was a few camellias that, have been pushed into that shape.
Yeah.
But, as I said, I'd taken over this contract. I've only been at it for, I think, must be 2 months now.
Yeah.
And slowly working my way through all the hedges and, so I'm slowly getting there. But it's, it was just neglected for so long. When I went and looked at the job, the maintenance guy said, no, we just do the pruning once a year. I go, no, I don't think so. Goes, yeah. I said, no, that's not what's in the scope of work. Oh. I said, mate, it'd just be a control in 12 months. Well, yeah. I said, well, it's not going to happen when I'm here.
Yeah.
So I just still don't understand how they let it go for 12 months before they prune stuff. It's like, it's just such a massive job.
Well, if you let it go for 12 months before you prune it, it's also thinning out. It's not giving nice, dense foliage.
Yeah.
You're doing damage to the plant.
Yeah. And this is aged care home.
Yeah.
So, I know older people are like because they're sitting there, they haven't got a lot to do, and they will chip you if you doesn't afford it. And and it's a good paying job. They're extremely happy with the work we've been doing so far. So
yeah.
But 12 months blew me away.
Yeah.
But,
so if you're doing lily pillies and camellias, I think lily pillies you're probably best off doing almost once a month or at least every 4 to 8 weeks, yeah?
Yeah. So, it just keeps such a nicer shape and it's easy. It's a quick trim instead of, like I said, like all the trunks were just full of shoots and took me ages to prune all that out and,
Camellias can be a little bit different though, right? Because you get seasonal growth with camellias and you want to make sure you're not pruning them too heavily when they're flowering.
Yeah, that's right. Also, they planted, whoever planned them picked the wrong plant because they got multiple trunks.
Uh-huh.
So, it's very hard to, I'm not going to get a nice shape out of them ever.
Yeah.
So, and the way they were pruned before, like there was one plant had 3 trunks and they cut one at a foot high off the ground. Like, why'd you do that? Anyway.
Yeah, well, that's like you say, if they're doing, let's prune everything once every 12 months, they're not actually doing a routine trim. They're doing a reduction, which probably explain why they went, "Oh, let's cut it a foot off the ground because it's just going to knock it back and stop it from getting too big."
But that was just one trunk. The other two were let go up a bit 4 foot tall.
Were they trying to do clouds? So you got a cloud off each trunk or something?
No, it was just a mess.
Yeah.
It hadn't been cut that long ago because you could see where the last five shoots they'd shot out and they were 3 feet long.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, no, they weren't very dedicated. Like the guys that were doing it before, two of them would be there for 8 hours.
Yeah.
And like I don't know what they're doing, but I'm knocking the whole thing over in 3 hours by myself. So
yeah.
and still and they did a much better job than what these guys were doing. So
Makes you wonder, doesn't it?
oh yeah. And that's what the maintenance guy says, "Are you really finished?" I said, "Yeah, I'm not here to muck around. I'm here to mow the lawn, make it look good. I've got other work to do."
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah, that's great. Crazy the difference sometimes. And I see that all the time when you're talking about going, particularly if you're going between employees and a contracted business coming in to do something, but even between contracted businesses, you see so much variety. One of the things I've seen come up occasionally is when you've got a really large business like Green Options or something like that competing with somebody who's a solo operator. And the difference is amazing in terms of the quality of work, the amount of hours it takes to be there, all those sorts of things, because and I'm finding this going from being solo to having employees, the expectation of what you would have on yourself compared to what you have on an employee is massively different.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's that's all you can say. It's massive.
Yeah. So you got to take that into account when you put on an employee, but when you're quoting a job like that and you're going, okay, I can do it in 3 hours, that is a really stark contrast between what you're doing and what the previous person was doing.
Yep. Yes, and I've been down the track of trying to hire people, and I probably did have unrealistic expectations because I pushed very hard. Because I'm very driven. I'll get as much work done as I can.
Yeah.
But employees are never going to work as hard as you do, because it's not their business, and they don't have the same. Some do have as much pride as you do, but it's just not the same.
Yeah, well, I guess when you have an employee versus a business owner, it's always going to be a trade-off one way or another. So you can pay an employee to care, but you can't pay them to be as quick as you and care as much as you.
Yeah. And it's like on the mowers, you can be quick, but sometimes it be rough as well.
Yeah.
So that's what I find with employees. Like they'll just get to them, they'll rip around and tear the chuck of grass. And that's one thing the old man always taught me, is the more fluent you are, the quicker you are.
Yeah.
So it's like a race car. You go into the corners and you come out of the corners quick. It's hard turns, and that's where you pick up your speed. But yeah, I've seen some young blokes just do some terrible things.
Yeah.
And anyway.
Yeah. And I've seen the same thing. I've had quite a number of employees now, and I don't like ragging on employees, but let's do it, hey? So I've seen some of the young guys come in, work for me, and they do a great job. And it's like, hey, I want to keep you because you do an awesome job. So let's talk about what it's going to take, making sure you're getting paid the right amount, making sure that I'm not pushing you to work too hard, but I do expect you to work well and do a good job and keep on doing it right. And I found if I dangle a carrot in front of them and say, hey, once you reach this level, you're going to get a pay rise, they push themselves really hard to get that pay rise. And then once they've got the pay rise, they slack off.
Yeah.
Or they might set initially and get set up well and go, all right, this is a really great employee. I want to hang on to you. I want to, what can I do to make sure that you stick around and keep working with me? And then the moment you turn around, you're not watching them, they're slacking off, goofing off, and doing stupid things.
Yep.
And fine. Yeah. It's pretty frustrating as a solo person trying to become an employer and trying to learn all those things to actually make sure you get to that level where you go, okay, I can have employees and be a manager rather than just a self-employed gardener, lawn mowing person.
Yeah. I mean, it becomes disappointing too, because you do put a lot of trust in them.
Yeah.
And then when they do the wrong thing, it's like, why?
Yeah, I know.
So
And I know this will sound like a promo for gyms, but it really does make the franchise model look good, because if you have an employee, you can't trust them. But if you have somebody who's then taking that responsibility of being in charge of their own business, like a franchise, so, the same thing goes. You buy into a franchise at the start, you're invested in making sure your business runs well. If you've got an employee working for you, they're not invested in making sure your business runs well. I'll come across a couple of guys who are like, okay, I'm going to put on an employee, but they're going to become a business partner, or they're going to be given an option to buy the business off me, or to buy a run off me, or something along those lines. And for those people who have ventured down that path, they're like, it really works well if that person then becomes invested, because they get something back according to the amount of effort they put in.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a hard balance to do that. And that's why I'm saying, like, going back to that, franchise model works really well, because those people buying in have invested.
Yeah. Yeah, it's their own name, money, everything that they put, you're putting out there. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I want to sort of go back to the start of your business a bit, Grant. Is that all right? We'll go back and look at what you did when you started. So back 20 years ago, you started with 30 customers.
Yep.
And did you build that up to a certain point where you're like, all right, I'm busy enough now and I can back off?
It took a long time to get to that point, because 30 customers. So where we are here, like, grows like crazy. So from when we get rain, so if we don't get rain until December, we're doing nothing. In December, a couple of years ago, it was a fortnight before Christmas and it hadn't rained, and it was just a dust bowl. I was like, gee, it's going to be a hard year. And then we got a really good dump of rain, and it was on for young and old.
Yeah.
And then it will grow up until usually March, April. Yeah. Some years we had it keep growing into June, still mowing fortnightly.
Wow.
But once it drops off, it just drops off a cliff. I've got one particular run that I do, and over winter it'll go 12 weeks without being needed to mow. And that's the whole run. It's not just one or two lawns. It's the whole run for the particular area.
Yeah.
And when I turn up to come back to do it, like the clients they might message me, or I know I'm heading that way. And you go back and there's only a few weeds that have grown, and then the grass is only starting to come back.
Yeah.
So it's very, so wintertime, she's really tough, really. Post isn't too bad, because it still gets a bit of not showers, but it's like a mist that comes in that just keeps gives it enough to keep going.
Yeah.
So it's very winter time. It's always really tough. And in the first couple of years, I would go off and do different labouring jobs, or go work with a builder, or what else would I have done? Gee, it's that long ago.
I'm just looking at a map where Lismore is. So you're halfway, you're sort of in between Casino and Ballina. You got Ulsterville that's not too far from Lismore, right? So do you travel out towards the coastline? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So down to Ballina, I'll go.
Yeah.
And up to just short of Byron Bay. So the piece up there, like Bengalo.
Yeah, okay.
And then do the inland area.
That's a bit of driving.
Oh, yeah. Some of the days, it's 100 Ks round trip.
Yeah.
But it's a full day. Like,
yep.
If I tell everybody, if I take on new clients, I said, I'm here this day, every fortnight.
Yep.
If you don't want your lawn done, fine. It'll be another fortnight before I come back.
And you're going to...
I do not make special trips. I can buy more fuel. I can buy more vehicles. I can't buy time. And that is it. I say I will not make... There's no... I don't care who you are. And
a bit of a sidebar this, but I've seen this where people like myself were doing all the jobs within 10 minutes from home, and you could literally go, okay, there's a job there which I'm going to do on Monday, every second Monday, because I want to get all of the jobs in that street done on that day. But if I got rain, I could push that job to the Tuesday or the Wednesday that week, or I could even let it go till the week after, because it's only 10 minutes from home. But if you're travelling, doing a 100K round trip for the day, you're not going to do that. And you see the distinction between different people running lawn businesses where some of them just don't get it. It's like, okay, it's easy for me when I've got not enough work or I've got all my jobs within half hour to go, all right, I can just move jobs around and whatever. But if you're going, all right, Monday, every second Monday, I'm going to Bangalow, you're not going to go back there on Tuesday.
No. And so it's like, this is, people laugh at me, like, why do I have lights on my mower? I said, because if I'm out there, going that far out and I've got half an hour left on the job, I'm staying until it's finished, because I'm not. Because the next day, I've already got 10, 12 hours of mowing lined up.
Yep.
And as I said, because of the travelling I do, it gets done on that day, and that's the way it is. I mean, town jobs, as you're saying, I'll shuffle them around here and there because of weather or breakdowns.
Yeah.
But the ones where I'm going out of town doing the long, the big days, that's the day and that's it.
Yeah.
And 90% of my clients can see it, can see why, and can see, I'm doing the right thing. And they actually love the regularity. Like they know, it's Tuesday, Grant coming, or I'm there every 2 weeks. It's just, So,
but you would also have a very blunt attitude towards people who ask you to move jobs around, wouldn't you? Because you're like, no, I can't do it. And if somebody's like, but I'm not going to be there on Monday, it's like, well, too bad.
Yeah, like I don't need you to be there.
Yeah,
and I've got a good enough, 95% of my clients is repeat. There's very few that it's just one-offs or I generally can't get them in. And like some of my clients, I might go 6 months without actually seeing them. Yeah. And they'll fix me up, and, that's fine. So
that's awesome.
I do think about it sometimes. I think, geez, it's been ages since I've seen them and they owe me money, and stuff. We'll be fine. So,
and I think that's one of the things. If you've got a well-established relationship with a client, you have a level of trust there in terms of how much they owe you and whether they're good for it or not, right? But I want to ask you a few more questions along these lines because they are interesting for people who are listening to my podcasts to determine what should work well for them and what doesn't work well for them. So I always precurse this with, tell me to shut up, you're not going to answer something, because I don't want to offend anyone, and there are things which some people won't want to share. But you mentioned doing 12-hour days and travelling. So from Lismore to Bangalow and back again, you're talking sort of 50 kilometres each direction, is that?
Bangalow is just it's actually just out just above Byron. So it's called Cooper Chute. It's one of the areas that I go to.
Yeah.
It's 45 minutes from my place each way.
Yeah.
And I, as I said, I usually work my way out. So, yeah, I pick up, yeah.
So you're doing jobs on the way each direction as well as some right out there and then come back again then?
I usually actually just work my way out and I'll finish out there because I can drive home in the dark.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So if we take that day as an example of some of the work that you do, you're saying 12-hour day potentially, is that? And I'm guessing that will vary, right? So if you're working in the dark, it might end up being a 14-hour day or something. If you just go, I want to finish and I'm out there, so I'm going to stay till I'm done.
Yeah.
So if you're saying that's a 12-hour day when you do it, does that mean you're doing 12 hours of work, or is that 12 hours include driving time and you go, okay, I'm probably averaging 9 to 10 hours work? Or?
Well, most of the jobs is basically only 10 minutes.
In between jobs, yeah.
Yeah.
So be, say, 11 hours worth of work over a 12-hour day then?
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. And so where I usually actually finish that day at, there's, with it, 1, 2, 3, I think 4 jobs in a cul-de-sac, and that could be, if you added it all up, be close to 15 acres.
Yeah, wow. That's a decent little run if you can do 15 acres in one cul-de-sac, eh?
Yeah, they're big properties.
Yeah.
So, and the people who are up there, they've got money and they haven't got the time to spend doing it. It's not all the expertise, so they just get people to come and do them. Yeah.
If they're hanging around too close to Byron, they might be off their face too.
It's more towards Nimbin.
I think anywhere around Lismore, Nimbin, Byron Bay, there is. Well, we could just pick on any of those towns and go, all right, that's a well-known spot for finding some green plants. Mullumbimby.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I want to ask the hard question here. So when you do a day like that, what's your turnover likely to be?
If we do my full day, it's could be 1,600.
Yeah, okay. So it's worth it. I think putting it into perspective, because I talk to people who do $400 days, $500 days, $1,000 days, and that's probably the upper end, that's $1,600 in a day, but it's a big day.
Yeah.
And I think it's worth touching on that in terms of the equipment you use as well, because a lot of people will go, oh, yeah, I could do a $1,600 day with my Honda.
Okay. Yeah. Some people.
And there are people who can do that. I'm not knocking it. If they can, great. But you're not using a HRU 216 when you're doing that day.
No. She, the Honda only comes out to do the little courtyards or just a little courtyard that you can't get the zero into.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, it's nearly everything. So even whipper snipping, I'll only do out of that whole day, I might do 45 minutes of whipper snipping.
Yeah. Wow.
So, the rest of the time is just sitting on the zero going hard at it.
So that takes us back to what we were saying before, where if you're sitting on the zero turn for a 12-hour plus day, how's your back coping?
My back's actually really good, considering all the damage that I have actually done to it. Like I busted it in the mines, hurt it really bad. I was mucking around being stupid.
Yeah.
Got slipped in a loader. It hurt it badly.
Yep.
And it took a few years to actually get it right.
Yeah.
Also playing rugby, I've torn I think it's called the sacroiliac ligament, which joins your pelvis to your spine.
Yeah.
That's taken probably 5 to 10 years to actually get right.
It's a pretty serious injury, isn't it? It's not
that one. Yeah, that
you don't just go, oh, let's get a bit of physio, she'll be right.
No, I know. I remember when I did it, and I actually went to pick. We had a newborn, and I'd seen my chiropractor. He fixed me. I said, "Oh, beauty, I'm right. I can play in the grand final." Look, I've gone in to pick up the baby and I've just bent over, not thinking. It's at 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
And it went again, and then it started to spasm.
Yeah.
And I was actually crying. It was, some of the worst pain I've had. So I've done a lot of damage in the back through, life.
Yeah.
But sitting in the mowers, it doesn't worry me. I never ever get a sore back. It's really good actually compared to what I've actually done to it.
Yeah, and I've found when using a sit-down zero turn, I've found mostly that my back's not a problem using the mower. But if you're doing, say, 2 hours plus in one sitting, I find I have to get up and move around. So I can't just sit on the mower for 2 hours plus. I have to get off it and I'm on and off a couple of times here and there to make sure that my back's moving.
Yeah. I think the biggest lawn I had, is about 3.5 hours, and I'll usually just punch that out.
Yeah. You have a good stretch once you get off.
Yeah. Then you pick up the whip snipper and you're in a different position and you're walking, and there's only, when that particular job, there's only like 15 minutes whippersnapping. So
yeah. So I would normally say whippersnapping is one of the jobs that wrecks your body more than anything, but it's good after you've been sitting on the ride-on for 3.5 hours. It's like, all right, the whippersnapping's making everything stretch again.
You're bending back the other way.
So, Grant, another sidebar on this, relevant, but let's do it. The zero turns that you're using, that 60-inch?
Yep.
61-inch size decks?
Yeah, predominantly. I did venture down the 72-inch for the Toros, but just be a great machine for big open spaces, but like the particular ones I was taking it on, they were just too tight.
Yeah.
So I wasn't any quicker. And it was more cumbersome, was putting more cut marks. So I just went back to the 60.
Yeah.
So
when I've talked to Kyle using his 72-inch ZK, and I've got the 61-inch ZK, they're basically the same machine with 72 inches, just been 11 inches more. Which, when you say 11 inches more, it's like, well, that's quite a lot actually. But 72 versus 61, throw it into perspective. Then you got an extra set of wheels there, so that you've got the dualies on the 72. The 61 is a quicker machine.
Yeah.
The 72 will cut more acres per hour, yes, but the 61 is actually a quicker machine in most situations.
Yeah. The manoeuvrability is like, I know your zeros, you can flick them around, and they are manoeuvrable, but the 60, it's just like it's the next step up with manoeuvrability, just because you haven't got the cumbersome size. Especially if you're used to the property on a 60 and then you go to a 72, it's like, it just doesn't work there. It's a pain.
Yeah. The other thing I've found really interesting there, I've been using walkers for most of my career, right? So 14 years of business, I've been using walkers for most of it, and 42-inch and a 56-inch deck on the walker. Now I've got a couple of rights. I've got 42-inch and the 61-inch right standers. What I've found with the walkers, the tech follows the change in slope better than a regular zero turn.
Yeah.
But the biggest difference I notice is in terms of scalping. And you go, okay, bigger deck, more likely to scalp. But with the ZK, the 61-inch deck, and with the scalp wheels that it's got on there, I can cut areas where it's reasonably tidy at 1.5 inches high without scalping. And if I take the 42-inch right stander out and do the same area, it's scalping left, right, and centre. Because it doesn't have any anti-scalp wheels.
Oh, right.
And so that's something that makes a significant difference. If you're running around with different size decks, the 60-inch size machines often do a neater job than the 40-inch machines because of the way the deck's being built and designed, and there's a lot more gone into it, I think.
Yeah. I'm just thinking that on the John Deere, they've actually got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They've got 6 scalp wheels.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's either like the Toros only run, well, mine only run 4. They actually take the left-hand side rear one off, so I can get the back of the deck in really, really tight.
Oh, yeah.
From trees.
Yep. Fair enough.
But, yeah.
So this is an interesting topic for a lot of people listening. If you are looking at the brands of mowers that you can buy, when you're talking big machines, 60-inch machines, John Deere and Toro would be 2 of the biggest names in the industry. So,
yeah, I'd put Kubota. They're in our area, because it's funny. Like, I know you've got your rights. I think we've got to go to Brisbane before we can find a right dealer.
But simply just talking the biggest names, like John Deere and Toro are probably the bigger companies in our industry that make machines.
Yeah.
But once you start getting into specialty machines like Walker or Riot or Skag, where you're talking a lot more stand-on machines, or the Walkers with their articulating deck and their catching grass handling systems, there's differences there. But for regular work, Toro and John Deere are the biggest brand names. And so I find that really interesting that you've got one of each. And I don't want to push you to rat out what you don't like. We can talk about that. But what I'm more interested in, the deck design, because I think they both build brilliant decks, and they've both got a name for building decks that do a fantastic finish. But have you got a preference one over the other in terms of the finish you get from those machines?
It depends what lawns I'm cutting. So we found that the John Deere, because it's a press deck, the airflow is just ridiculous. Like, when the Toro, I know if I cut 2 off a line that I don't want grass to go past, I know grass isn't going to get thrown any further than that.
Right.
The John Deere, it'll throw 3 to 4 times cut width. It's just ridiculous how much airflow it generates.
That's
and like I've got one job, and it's a big run down the side of a building, and so the building one side, curb and guttering, and then you're onto the road.
Yeah.
And it's I can do one cut along the building. If I do another one, I'm throwing grass all over the road. And the first time you use it, I go, geez, this is going to be a pain.
Yeah.
And I made my own mulch flapper 19 years ago.
Yeah.
Because I was just sick of throwing grass against fences and windows and whatever. And
so that's just a flap over the side as opposed to like a full mulch kit that you could put in it.
Yeah, it's just a steel flap. I take the rubber shoes off and put the steel flap on, and it's quite heavy. So, and I've made it so I can pin it so it's completely closed off, or it will just float.
Yeah.
So, so I basically, when I'm in those tighter spots with the John Deere, just drop the flap down and have to run over a few more times to get the grass to spread out, because I don't catch grass.
Yeah.
Fair. And then, but if I'm out in the middle of a paddock and I'm cutting through a area that's 4 feet long, I want the John Deere, because I was actually the first time we used that mower cutting stuff like that, and I expected to turn around and have to run back over it. It was all gone. And I was like, holy Toledo, that really just ripped it. And she didn't drop any revs. It just kept on going.
That John Deere is a diesel?
Yeah.
Is the Toro diesel as well?
Yeah. I've had the last 3 Toros I had with diesel.
Yeah.
I had a petrol before that, which was a Kohler, which was a good machine too.
I love the Kohler engines, but a lot of people in Australia, they're just not fans of Kohler for some reason. And I'm like, I think they're pretty good.
Yeah, like they were a 28 EFI, and we never ever ran the motors flat chat unless you're cutting heavy stuff.
Yeah,
and we can get good fuel economy out of them now, like 3.5 to 4 litres an hour.
Yeah,
and then they decided, no, we're going to go Toro side. They went to a Kawasaki, carbureted, and the fuel just went through the roof. It's like, sorry, we're not buying that. So we changed the diesels, and the diesels, it's just, I love it. I love the sound of a diesel.
Yep.
It's convenient. They run. I can run all day, all in one tank, which is 25 litres.
Yeah.
So when you get in those sorts of economies, it's it's a big difference.
A massive difference, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So
the other thing, you're talking about the amount of side discharge you get from the John Deere because it's got really good airflow. I found the Wright ZK has awesome airflow as well, and the original blades, they're like a high lift blade on the right. They would throw it like four times the width of the machine. But once I replaced those blades, I went over to a set of Gator blades and got Ben Vandergeesen to hook me up with a nice set of blades, and they're really good blades. They mulch the grass up a lot finer, but it doesn't throw. So I'm literally getting maybe one width of the machine in terms of throw with the Gator blades on.
Yeah. Well, I've been saying I actually went to a mulch blade. I use ASB blades.
Yeah.
And, put their mulch blades on, and it cut it by at least by half. Yeah. But then when I want to clean up an area, like it might have been on a roadside or on a bit of concrete, it just didn't have the air force. And it's like,
yeah, it doesn't.
You can't have as long as it does.
Yeah.
But that's where going back to the Toro deck mulches really, really well. And I'd find, so I'll cut grass to a centre and then drop the flat down and just run over it a few times, bunch it up, lift the flat back up, and then spread it back out.
Yeah.
And there's no grass. But people quite often, they say, where's the catch-up? What do you mean? Well, what do you do with all the grass? Do you catch it? No, I just munch it up.
Yeah.
But where does it go? We just munch it up. Like, don't let it itself.
It gets returned to the soil.
Efficiency is the thing that rules a business and the decisions you make as a small business owner. Right Mowers give you the options in their product lineup to match efficiency with size, fuel usage, and the type of jobs you want to target, from catching to mulching or side discharge, from roadside verges to acreages, and manicured lawns to 6 feet tall and super long. I've been using the Wright Stander I 42-inch with a Catch Pro for manicured areas and the Stander ZK61 to maximise productivity for large open acreage mowing. If you need to replace your push mower, try the 32-inch Stander B. If you have more open access to residential properties, there's a 42 through to 48-inch option that suits you. And if you want to enter the acreage market, the 52, 61 and 72-inch machines have choices in engine size and model type to suit the work you want it to do. Wright Standards go the distance, saving you time and money, season after season.
I've had conversations with quite a few people about mulching grass, and you're going to get a couple of haters saying when you're side discharging, that's not mulching. But at the end of the day, if you're side discharging the grass, it's still getting returned to the soil. It might be bigger clippings than if you're running a set of Gator blades and mulching it up really fine. But so what you're saying with the Toro, it does a really good job of mulching the grass up. Are you using a flap on the side of that or a mulch kit, or?
No, just the flap on the side. So, and that's one thing I found with John Deere. I would try and use the same technique, but it even with the mulch flat down, it would still blow out and blow out. So I'd have to actually reverse over the grass because you're coming onto the blades the wrong way, basically.
Yep.
It would get a bit better mulch, but it would take me longer to mulch the grass up. So.
Whereas the Toro would do it better the first time.
Yeah, the deck, whether it's just the airflow isn't there or... Toro do have not that I use it, they have you undo like a bolt for a lever on your top of your deck and you can open and close the width of your chute.
Yeah, okay.
So... not that I actually play around with it too much, generally, because we're just trying to pump out as much grass as you can. But yeah, that's one thing I know Toro has. And I know John Deere do have what they call the MOD deck, and that's mulch on demand, and you just pull a lever and the whole, your 3 baffles actually close off.
Yeah.
And I have had a go at one. I had Darren Spezina, who's got one. But I generally just want to, I've been doing it long enough that my clients know how it gets done.
Yeah.
And then, and there's a few other techniques. Some lawns are a bit heavy. The tire is really good, so if I drop the flat down, it'll windrow it, and then I can just push it and might bring a green bin around, chuck it in that, or I can push it away into another paddock where I can just disperse it a bit, or blow it into a cow paddock.
Yeah.
The John Deere, I don't know.
Cows would love you turning up doing that.
Like that, they come running. Like, it's funny. The cattle know, because it's a short grass, it's sweeter.
Yeah.
So I've seen them fight and carry on over it, with each other trying to get grass.
It's like some of the areas I've done where the birds follow me around looking to catch the birds as I'm mowing. It's like the cows are doing the same thing.
The butcher birds and magpies love you.
Oh, yeah.
So it's sort of, it has taken a little bit to get used to the John Deere with the deck. I'm a little bit, I'm still undecided about it, to be honest. But anyway.
Yeah, so you haven't been entirely happy with the John Deere on every front, but the deck design's certainly impressive.
Yeah, just the hydraulics let them down. My general mechanic, who looked after me really well, he said he'd go to the 997, which is the next one up, which is I think it's 35 horse.
Oh yeah, that's quite a lot.
But it's longer. It's taller again, I think, and heavier. So, that's another 10 grand.
Wow, that's a big difference.
Yeah, and the length of it actually made it really hard, because then you have to change the whole setup of the trailer, because the 994 just hits the trailer.
Oh, okay.
That's weird, because I have back to right on zero on the back over ramps, and then I have kind of the side out of the trailer, and that's where the push rail goes, and they've got a bar in there separating. So it sort of makes it, if I had to change that, it makes it really difficult. So anyway,
I'm just looking at the John Deere Australia website while we're talking about this. The 994 diesel is what you're using.
Yeah.
And you said the 997 is going to be got more horsepower, faster machine, but it's getting larger and taller.
Yeah.
So it would be a good machine, but yeah. So are you saying from front to back is too hard to fit in your trailer?
Yeah. So basically, they're the same as roughly the same as a 7210 Toro. And I have to fit it in, I've got to take the bar out and do something else when I push the Honda. To fit in the trailer.
Yeah, I can see that. Looking at that 997, it is quite a bit longer, isn't it? Yeah. And when they are, it is the next step up. They basically run their hydraulic pump is what they pull out of a tractor and just downsize a little bit. Yeah, they're a massive pump. They have had problems with those pumps, all the 7210s and the Toros. Yeah.
So very, very similar to what the Kubota run on their bigger Zeros. They're a massive pump that you never have trouble with. So, and they're all direct drives.
Yeah.
So they're impressive, but you got to pay for it somewhere, whether it be weight or your space. So,
Yeah, I'm wondering that, looking at the different options with the John Deere, because so yours is the 994, which is basically 25 horsepower diesel. The 997 is the 37 horsepower diesel now. But if you go down to a 970, that's a 35 horsepower petrol, I believe.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to look at how that compares, what the ground speed of that's like by comparison to the diesels.
Well, I think the petrols, they tweak them up and they are quicker.
Yeah.
I've talked to a few blokes and they believe it's sort of because they haven't got that top end sort of horsepower there to drive them, like with the hustlers.
Yep.
Whereas the diesel is more about just torque.
Yeah, torque rather than horsepower. Yeah.
Yeah. And when we first went to the diesels, we had to actually learn how to drive them differently up the hills. So if you were tearing on flat out and then you come to a steep hill, you'd actually back off, let them get their power, and then just keep on going at steady power, and they'll cut right to the top of the hill. But if you push it into it, trying to get fast, you would just lose your RPM, and then you've actually got to stop, let them get the power back, and go again. And that's a bit. If you're on a steep, slippery hill, once you lose your momentum, you might as well get back to the bottom and start again sometimes.
Yeah.
So you've got to learn to drive them differently. But
yeah. I think that just looking through the John Deere website, it looks like as much as you like your diesels, the 970 might be a great option there with the like their top of the line petrol.
I just don't like petrol.
Well, understandably, I think it's got twice as much fuel capacity in the tanks, and that's because it needs it, right?
Now, what's got twice as much capacity?
So the petrol, I think it holds close to 40 litres, whereas I think you were saying about 25 litres, is that right?
No, the diesels hold. So on the Toro's got two tanks. That's the way beside.
Okay.
And one's 22, the other one's 25.
Yep.
So the John Deere, their fuel tank, they only have one on one side.
Yeah.
But it's 40. 47 litres.
43.5 litres is what the 970 holds.
Yeah, well, it's the same as what the 904 holds.
Okay, there you go. Okay.
But then I made a slight modification to mine, so I hold a bit more now.
Okay.
I really, really, really bad. I love to get the engineer and headbutt him. But put a throat in the fuel filler. So when I went to look at the machine, it had a massive fuel cap. It's like 4 inches in diameter. And it's like, oh, beauty. At least he breaks all of that. Went to fill it up, and I've undone the cap and go, oh my God. You couldn't put a high flow diesel pump, nozzle in the thing. It's that small. So I got my bloody soldering iron and I just jammed it in and I worked my way around and I ripped out that throat. And so now I've got a full 2-inch throat.
Yeah.
And so before I couldn't get a jerry can and just upend it and stand it there. It's just fuel was going everywhere. So that was part of the reason. So because I've taken that throat out, I've actually got a little bit more depth.
Yep.
So I could fit almost 50 litres in my tank now.
Okay, it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
So you just look at the specs here between the petrols and the diesels. The 3 petrol machines I'm looking at, 930, 950 and 970, they've all got a ground speed of 19 kilometres an hour. So that they do move along a little bit quicker. They say tough torque, heavy duty, integrated hydraulic pumps.
Yeah, same as the 994.
Okay, yeah.
Which is honestly pathetic. So
I'm just trying to find the 994, 997. So the 997 goes to different Kenzaki dual unitized pumps and Parker gas motors.
Yeah. So they're like a so much heavier, so much stronger.
Yeah.
And, whereas the tough talks, the Renon on fours, they're pathetic.
They're not so tough.
They're not tough at all. And the biggest problem is they can't call properly. They've only got little fans that sit on top that can call. So it's you just cannot call them. And once they're stopped, they just keep on. They'll actually generate more heat because the heat of everything, like the heat sink that it has, they get hotter and hotter. So it's a really poor system that has not been looked at from a commercial point of view.
That is not good, is it?
Nope.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Yeah, that's not great, but other than that, outside of that, the John Deere has been an impressive machine.
There's there's things I love about them too, like the way they use the height gauge. I think Kubota did the same. They got a little dial. Yeah. So if I'm going around the lawn, and I've got a couple of lawns where it might be up around say in a yard or beside the driveway, and they want it cut shorter.
Yeah,
I just got to take the pressure off, and I can drop it down a couple of notches, cut it, and then I drop back down off the hill, might be down into the paddock, pick it up again, and that's super. Like it's quick. Whereas the Toro, it's a pin that just works just on a height lever, and you should try and do that. You've actually got to. You can't do it just because you change it so many times and you're looking for your hole. Whereas with the John Deere, you can actually feel the notches. So that's one thing I really enjoy about it.
Yeah. I think the John Deere dial for adjusting the deck height seems like a really easy to use system.
Yeah. So, but I see Kubota do the same. I think there's another. I think the other one that does it, but I can't think of it either.
So Kubota is the same as John Deere, aren't they?
Oh, and in the way they do their height.
Yeah, okay.
So, and that's probably what I'm going to lean towards with the Mimetic mower.
Yeah.
So, just to keep in the diesel, that's the passion. And I mean, the reason why I love diesel too is the Utes diesel, the Aussie Track diesel, the Excavators diesel, the truck diesel, my 4000D diesel. So if I go to get fuel, I just got to put diesel in jerry cans, and I know I'm going to be covered. So but I did make the mistake once where I had to actually, so the mower shop we have here for the sell Toro, they used to have a loan mower.
Oh yeah.
And it was a petrol. So I was using it for a week, and I would give own petrol, and then one day I just, in a rush, grabbed the petrol, grabbed the jerry, threw it in my diesel.
Yeah.
And it was, she just stopped dead, and I go, and I realised what I'd done. I
put petrol into your diesel machine, or?
Yeah. And it was pure, there was no diesel in it to mix with it. That's when you run into trouble. If you put a pure diesel, like it's 50-50 mix sort of thing, that they'll still run, and that's when you cause damage. Whereas if you had that petrol, they'll just stop dead.
Oh, okay, yep.
And I rang up the mechanic. I said, "What do I do, Josh?" And he goes, "Just got to drain it." And I flicked back over the tanks because I had enough litres in the other tank to finish off.
Yeah.
And she fell right up straight away, and I was lucky it didn't do any damage.
Yeah.
But because it just stopped dead on me. It's like, and I go, what have we done there? And then, oh, you idiot. Yeah. It's easy to drain it.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. It's not a mistake you want to make twice.
What is that?
So it's not a mistake that you want to make twice.
Oh, no. You don't make it twice.
Yeah.
Especially with a car, or especially like the new common rail diesels. That's a big big cost, that one. Anyway.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things, isn't it? I mean, if you go, oh, that engine's just stopped dead, and the moment that happens, you're like, oh, what did I do? Put the wrong fuel in it. That's a sinking feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, so, Grant, we've covered quite a few things talking to you, and I think we're at about an hour and a half. How's that?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm closing in fun.
That's it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, I guess one of the things I want to look at to help listeners out the most is what your business looks like from a bit of an overview. And we've been getting information there that helps people to get that overall in terms of the type of work that you do and the amount of work that you do and the amount that you charge out. So can we sort of take a final look at a couple of those things?
Yeah.
So you're not using any employees at the moment?
No.
That means your workload is pretty consistent and what you can keep on top of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So, I do overload myself. I'll go through your lawns and because everything's basically the same every fortnight, all that through summer especially.
Yeah.
And I'll go, I can do that one, that. And I'll add up 12 hours. Yeah, that's 12 hours. I'll have a crack at that.
Yep.
And that's, nearly every day.
So you're doing 12-hour days all the time?
6 days a week through summer, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I'll crack some hours. Like the Toro that I'm using at the moment, she's got 3,000 hours on it.
Yeah.
Probably 3,500 actually.
How many years have you had it?
5.
Yeah, that's a lot of hours in 5 years. But like you say, you're doing 12-hour days, 6 days a week.
Yeah, and basically that's in that 5th year. That's why I've had the John Deere as well. And I've got 600 on the John Deere.
Yeah.
So, I do quite a few hours with the mowers. And that's not doing me big stuff. Because if I go out doing the really big stuff, I take me 11-footer. And she bolts out a real lot. Yeah, they really bolt out the grass.
Yeah. So when you say 11-foot, what machine is that?
That's a 4000D Toro.
Okay.
So, it's I don't take it out for under 10 acres.
Fair enough.
So, I bought it for one particular job. This company wanted me to start doing the restaurant paddock with 20 acres. I had one go at it with the 5.0, and I was wretched. I had to actually knock off work because I couldn't walk.
Yeah.
Like my back, it's fairly rough.
Yeah.
So I talked to my accountant and I said, "This is what they're going for on auctions." He said, "Well, go for it." So I bought that, and instead of being 6.5 hours, it was 3 hours. And that was every single week, that job. So I priced that job to pay for that machine, which it did. And that was 13 years ago, and I've still got the job. So
you're talking a Groundmaster 4000D, right?
Yeah.
Which is a batwing?
Yep.
So, that's a big machine. It's still a zero turn almost, or it's got a steering wheel, so not really a zero turn, no.
No, it steers from the rear. Once you get to know how to use them, they're just as manoeuvrable as a zero turn.
Yeah.
And because the wings act independently, like I can pick up one or two wings, the other one will keep on running. As I said, once you get to learn how to use them properly, they're a great machine until it's wet, and then you're in the world of hurt because they weigh 2 ton.
2 ton, okay, that's a heavy machine. So what it says on the advertising brochure for it says that it has a 0 uncut circle, which means with the bat wings down that you don't get any missed grass.
Yeah. So what happens, I used to cut around the circle with it, but it's quicker to actually just go to an end to do lines. So because then your inside wing actually moves backwards.
Yep.
And across, and then when you go back down your line, you're straight back on the line again. So they're a really, that's it. Once you get to learn how to use them, they really cut a lot of grass. And it can be pouring rain. I'll cut through a thunderstorm, and it'd be just torrential.
Yeah,
because it's got a full cab.
Okay.
Just keep on plowing, and they're re-discharged. So all the grass is just coming out the back, and it didn't matter for that particular job. It didn't matter. They just wanted to cut every week. So
yeah.
So
with that machine, how many hours have you put on that one
now? She's come up to 3,600. So
okay, it's done a lot of work too.
Yeah. I was extremely lucky. I got that off straight online. The council wanted to get rid of it. It wasn't 3 years old, and it only had 1,600 hours on it.
Yeah, okay. So you've done 2,000 on it.
Yeah. So
there you go.
I love it. It's just sit in the big girl and chill away, and it's economical as well. It's only using 6.5 litres an hour.
That's good, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's a 65 horse turbo Kubota.
Yeah.
So it's so to do that particular job, I don't even use 20 litres of fuel.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, it's they are good machines.
Yeah.
So, but
so you've set your business up to make sure you've got something that does pretty much every kind of job that you want, whether it's, your 3 different ride-on mowers, your excavator, your posi track. You've set yourself up so you've got a good variety there. Yeah. So over winter time, when we slow right down, that's when I started doing the retaining walls and small excavating works. Like I've already got, I think, 4 jobs with retaining walls lined up. Yeah.
And they're decent size, like, they're going to be around sort of the $30,000 to $40,000 each.
Yeah, okay.
So fair amount of work in.
I was going to ask that. I was going to ask if your winter income with those sort of jobs is similar to what you're doing in summer, or whether you do more or less work in winter.
No, summer works, the mowing, like, really, it does, so generally each week, so a bad day for me is $1,000 in the summer mowing. A good day is $2,000.
Yeah.
And I'm usually between 12 to 1,500 every day. That's what I aim at.
Yeah.
Retaining walls, $30,000 job could take 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Depending on how the job goes. Sometimes it's, if it starts raining, it's just like, just walk away from it. You just don't bother.
Yeah.
Because you're just making an absolute mess. So,
understandable.
Yeah, they can be. And then you also have other things you're waiting on or waiting. Yeah.
So one of the things comes up with doing retaining walls frequently is the licensing required. So have you gone and done the licensing for doing large retaining walls, or do you stay under a certain height to minimise that?
I haven't so I'm not a qualified landscaper. I haven't done any training at all.
Yeah.
When I decided to get into it, I just done a lot of reading.
Yep.
Talked to a few builders about it, and just because honestly, it's not rocket science. You just go to really good footing.
Yeah.
And you build within the specs of what the manufacturers state.
Yep. And then, at times,
if I can get their clients to go a little bit overboard with the footing, because the footing's the most important thing.
Yeah.
To spend the money.
Yep.
And it's, you might be talking, instead of 1.5 cubes, we'll go 2 cubes.
Yeah.
And the difference is really only like a couple of $100, but you just got to get people to see it from, like, it's a better long-term thing.
Yeah.
So they come around to, all right. But I haven't had any, any training or licenses. So here, it's anything over a 600 mil wall needs DA approval,
yep.
and then you need engineering and all that. So if clients do want to, go down, and there are certain parameters that you have to do all those.
Yeah.
If you're within, I think it's Lismore Shire, if you're within 1.5 meters of the boundary, you've got to have DA.
Yep.
So because I don't have licenses, so I tell the people, all right, this is what we need to do. You need to go through council, get the engineering, and that's how you file it.
Yeah.
It does. And it's actually quite interesting. They see how much engineering adds to a job and the time it adds to it. It's they appreciate you more, I think, sometimes.
Yeah.
So because it can be a headache. Dealing with councils, but I know people are gonna, I'll jump up and down, say I'm a cowboy or whatever, but I haven't had any trouble yet, and I still get a lot of word of mouth. And I do have to get repeat customers where I've done this wall. Oh, a couple of years later, can you come and do this big wall now, please? And can you come and do this one now? I want to do this. So
yeah. And I guess one of those things is what you're saying there in terms of where engineering and DA is required. Are you referring that to somebody to do the engineering aspect there?
Yeah. There's a couple of engineering companies. They'll do the engineering up, and you just follow the specs.
Yeah, so in terms of, like, a cowboy's not going to do the engineering, right? And they're not going to do the DA. They're just going to say, no, this is what gets done, and not actually go through that process. Whereas you're saying, hey, to the client, hey, this is what needs to be done. This company's going to look after the engineering and the DA approval. And the client has to negotiate with them to do that?
Well, no, see, most engineering companies, they'll just do up the plans.
Yep.
To do the go through the DA, the client has to go through with the council because it's their property.
Yeah, okay.
Otherwise, you have to have, for me to do it, it's like a builder. They've got the license to do it. I mean, I have had some people say, no, not dealing with it, not dealing with council. We just want this done.
Yeah.
And like, all right, we'll still build it properly.
Yeah.
And so we don't have any trouble, because there's nothing worse than going back and fixing a wall. It is one of the most. It actually hurts. I haven't had, as I said, I haven't had to do any of mine. I've had to fix other walls that have collapsed, but it's not a fun thing to do.
No, not at all.
Yeah, but But as I said, it's just such a variety of people. So anyways, trying to cut costs. So and it's not cheap to go through council. They do make it difficult at times.
Yeah, then depends where you are as to how difficult the council is, right? Because I know in my area, if you want to do certain types of jobs, the councils just make it really difficult to do it.
Yeah, it's
they have their set expectations of this is what we deal with, and we deal with it efficiently. And you want that done? No, we don't do that.
So here, if you add 300 mils of dirt, or excavate 300 mils of dirt of a block, you need DA approval for that.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's and I've just bought a block and it's a sloping block and I've got to do retaining walls and whatever, and we're going to have to go through all that because we've got actually quite a bit of excavating to do.
Yeah.
So it's going to be fun, but it's what we need to do. So
it's that sounds rather frustrating, dealing with council on that.
And a lot of builders that I talk to, they say Lismore is one of the worst.
Yeah.
So, and I've had a few dealings with them with my properties.
Yeah.
It's not been fun in the past. But anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I'm just wondering what else we want to cover, Grant, in terms of where we go with this episode now. We're sort of
so, saying that I don't have employees, just recently had a company approach me and say, can you please do put in a tender for this? We need X amount. So, and I thought I didn't really want to do it. And then my other mates, I asked him because he was getting back into mowing. I said, do you want to do this job with us?
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, all right. So we put in a quote and we sort of put it in and we put a bit extra on it.
Yep.
And we got it. It's like, geez, all right. And that's, so now, Corey, shout out to Corey.
Yeah. Corey
Rogers. Corey Rogers. Good name. He's subbing with me.
Yeah, okay.
He also helps me because I picked up the tape contract here for the Northern Rivers 12 months ago.
Yep.
So that's 4 tapes. So one of them is Wollongbar tape, and that's 40 acres of mowing.
Yeah.
So we do that together. The other ones are small, so I just do them by myself.
Yeah.
He's subbing with that to me.
Yep.
Plus, there's another guy who does a small job for me. So it's sort of going down the subbing route, which it's still a headache because I'm still looking after the jobs and dealing like I'm the middleman, and it's but it's
now I've covered this on a few episodes where I tend to probably come across as if I'm talking about people that subby or have a helper as they're not doing it right, but I think it depends on the business model you're running as to what's going to work well for you, right? And if you want to have a business which is growing with employees, then you don't sub, you don't call them a helper, you call them an employee, you set them up with their super, you set them up with a employee handbook and work health safety stuff, all those bits and pieces. But this type of work that you're doing, having a subcontract option is a really decent way of allowing you to take on more work.
It's especially with the bigger stuff, because you're not, I haven't got another vehicle that I've got and a trailer and another big mower that I've got to try and keep the work up to. Corey he's rocked up out there with me and we're there, rain, hour, shine. It does, probably do make more money, but there's less headache.
Yeah.
So, and I'm doing pretty well, I think, for a sole operator.
Yeah.
So,
and I think some contracting is one of those areas where it's only as good as you can trust the person that's subcontracting to you.
Yeah, you do have to. You do have to have a little trust in them, and one of those jobs, the newer job we've taken on, I said to Corey, I said, right, we went and priced it together, and I said, if you're happy with that, that's good. And then, the hours actually were a little bit, the money wasn't quite there for the job. I said, well, we'll just shuffle things around. So everything's looking good.
Yep.
That's fine. I said, so long as you're happy.
Yeah.
Because if he's not happy, well, the job's going to go to shit. So, where it's working pretty good at the moment, I think.
Yep.
But yeah, you do have to have that trust and hope they're doing the right thing.
Yeah. Well, I've done several
Sorry.
jobs that are like that, where I've gone, all right, there's work that I'm getting asked to do, which is outside of my scope of what I do, using equipment I don't use. So I'd subcontract it to a person with excavator, posi track, and a truck. And yeah, okay, he and I had good understanding, that worked well. And, he would have a look at a job that I was getting asked to quote. He'd give me a quote, and I would pass on the quote with my percentage on top of it. And, 90% of the time, people would be like, yep, that's great, go ahead.
Yeah, that's the thing. People don't have the time to organise all that themselves. So they're happy to give it to someone else. They don't care if they get someone else in. The job gets done.
A lot of people come to you because of word of mouth, because they know that you're the person who can get the job done or has the contacts to make sure the job can get done. So if you're getting word of mouth for work that is outside of your scope, but you can easily find a subcontractor to do it, that's one of the reasons they trust you, and the word of mouth works.
Yeah. Yeah. And it frees up your time. You can, you might rock up there in the morning. Yep, no worries, got this to do. Yep. And you just go.
Yeah.
You can go punch out, do a full day of mowing, or go excavate something else, and they're doing their job, and you make you a little bit of 5 or 10% on top.
That's it.
So, and I know you do hear it on like the LMCA page. People say about stubbies, and you need to be making, doubling the price. That's all. You don't really, but each their own.
If you're talking about LMCA and people making claims like that, you're always going to get people on LMCA who come in and say stupid stuff. Like, that half-hour job, that's worth $500. Or that little hedge there, that's worth $2,000. And it's like, okay, whatever, go blow smoke somewhere else. And, if you look at it in reality, if you're dealing with different sized jobs, a small residential run, you do need to double it to make it worth subcontracting to somebody to do a half-hour job or a 10-minute job. But if you're talking a job where you're getting Corey to spend a day on one job, you don't need to double it. You just need a 5 or 10% cut.
Yeah. So it's the thing I find hard with the LMCA is the area difference. So stuff that's in Sydney, the prices they're charging, it's like, holy Toledo, are you serious?
Yeah.
And then you come out to the country, and if you even try to say half that, it's like, I'm not trying to, prop you up. And that's where it annoys me. Not annoys me, but I get a little bit frustrated, I suppose, that people ask prices and, people give their advice, but they're not in the area. And that's where it's good having your chat groups within your own area.
Definitely.
So, like, we've got a chat group here. There's a guys about on that 30 odd, and we all talk about our prices. We all give each other work relentlessly.
Yeah. And
stuff we can't make it to. And one other bloke, he was bogged on Monday. His mower, his ferrous, something happened to the hydraulics, so he had to take his mower, his ute and trailer in, and he couldn't get there. And he goes, so I knocked off. I went and grabbed my excavator and pulled him out.
Yep.
And it was only a matter of minutes. You didn't have to sit there and make phone calls. You just put it on the chat group.
Yep.
And I said, you need a tow.
Yep.
So it's really, that's where you should be looking, having the chat groups in your areas, and you actually get your hourly rates up, and you can, because they're all charging the same.
Yeah.
And then if you have problem clients, well, they get blacklisted.
Yeah.
And we've all done it. We go, and we warn each other, and ones that don't pay.
Yep.
And that's where we've all got to look after each other with these type of clients, and because you've got to look after each other, I reckon.
Yeah, I've seen that in my area too, and I think it's well worth pointing out that when you're comparing Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane, capital cities that are all similar yet very different, that's one thing. But when you're comparing a job in Sydney with a job in Lismore or a job in Griffith, it's not the same thing.
No.
There's a lot of factors that come into that, not just the pricing, but the way that you deal with people, the fact that you've got travel differences, the fact that you're talking about country instead of city. It's just massively different.
Yeah.
And some things can still work out similar pricing. I find residential jobs are still going to work out similar in a lot of ways. Like if you're in the country but you're doing a residential job in the middle of Lismore, which is a 600 square metre lawn, it's probably going to work out similar to a 600 square metre lawn in Newcastle or anywhere else. But you're not going to be in the middle of Sydney and getting asked to do a 12-hour day where you're doing 2 to 3 hour jobs on your 60-inch diesel zero turn.
Yeah. It's, really. Yeah, and that's where the areas are sort of your pricing is specific to the areas and the type of work you're doing. So
yeah. But in any of those areas, you're going to have your cowboys too, where it's like, okay, if you know somebody's not willing to pay for a job, or you know there's a school kid running around wanting to make some pocket money, there's ways of supporting them. Okay, they take the jobs I don't want.
Yep, yeah. I mean, I started off when I was actually 10 in my little country town. There's only 300 people. No, 200 people. Mowing lawns for $10.
Yeah.
So that was back in 1985. 85. Yeah.
Somewhere in there. Yeah, and back then, like I'm going to say exactly the same thing. Like you're doing well to be charging $10 when you're 10 years old, and that's what you're doing. It's great.
So, and as you said, that's fine for people who want, and it's good for kids to get out and have a crack like that. Yeah.
I mean, we have in LMCA, we have some younger kids come through from time to time, and some of those kids who started in LMCA at 12 and 13 years of age are now 16, 17, 18. And they've learnt along the way what they can do and learnt from us. But there's plenty of kids out there who are happy to be just out there earning some pocket money after school.
Yeah. And as you said, they're just doing those little jobs that people, it's too small for some of us.
Yeah.
So, yeah. One thing I was, and I noticed on LMCA, they always say, don't quote your hourly rate.
Yep.
When people ring me up and ask me, like, first thing I ask is it acreage or residential?
Yeah.
Obviously, it's residential. No, sorry, I don't do that.
Yep.
And then they'll ask, what's your price? And I just tell them it's 125 plus GST.
Yeah.
And some of them go, okay, can you come out and give me a price? I say, yeah, no worries. Or some go, that's too much.
Yep.
But okay, you're not wasting my time.
Yeah, and I mean, that's horses for courses there. I think there is a place in everywhere where you can go, okay, giving somebody an hourly rate is a way to say, go away, leave me alone, I'm not going to talk to you. Or it's the language that they speak. So,
yep.
If you're talking about residential jobs in suburban areas, I agree, don't give people an hourly rate. Just say this is what it's going to cost to get your lawn done, because they are used to having the school kid come around and it takes them an hour and a half to mow the lawn, and you're going to turn up and do it in 30 minutes, probably charging the same amount total as what the school kid was charging, but you're profitable and the school kid spent an hour and a half there.
Yeah.
So
and
hourly rate doesn't work for that.
No, that's right. When I was still doing residentials, it was just quoted on the job, but and I still quote most of my commercial stuff. It's just a quoted job, It's just when you do the big acreage, and you basically cannot see the whole property. So, and I'll give them a guess, and I'm usually pretty close. And also, I always price that off the first cut, and then said that's how much it's going to be from now on. And I'll usually get quicker at them because you learn all the little spots where you can shave 10 minutes off here and 20 minutes there, and that's where you make it money. If I ever have anyone say, "Oh, well, you're quicker," I said, "Well, no, this is what our price we agreed to." So,
and
anyway,
I think that's one of those things where you're going to be different to me. If I look at a job and I go, okay, I think that acreage is going to take me a half a day, I'm talking 4 hours. Whereas if you look at a job and you go, it's going to take me half a day, you're talking 6 hours plus.
Yeah, that's right.
And nowadays, if I look at a job and I'm going, oh, it's half a day, I'm like, well, I hope I get it done in less than 4 hours.
Yep.
I want to be finished by 2 or 3 in the afternoon.
I think it does that. It's when it's really, really, really heavy rain. So, I mean, I just put the raincoats on, or most of the time just keep on plugging away. Or finish in the dark. I think the latest I've ever worked to is 9:30. But that's if I'm out of town, out in farm areas. So
and you can.
Even though I don't annoy you, too annoying.
So I find those sorts of quotes, people are going to relate it back to an hourly rate, regardless of whether you're giving them a job rate or an hourly figure anyway, because they sit there doing the math in their head. They sit there going, oh, you're going to be here for 6 hours or 4 hours or half an hour or whatever it is. How much are you charging for that time? And it is, like, as much as LMCA and we don't want to admit that that's a time service, it is what we're doing. We're in a service industry.
Yes.
So
Definitely.
Those people who get really down in the details with that, they go, okay, there's time there, plus there's equipment fees, plus there's insurance fees, and break it down. And if you start trying to relay that to the customer, that's probably not going to go down well, right? Because you're sitting there trying to justify why you're charging $120 an hour by going, well, I'm charging you $45 an hour for my labour, and then I'm charging you for fuel and equipment replacement and insurance and lunch. And
if you point out to people, now I've got a $35,000 mower in the trailer. The trailer set up another 10,000. A decent ute is 40,000. Like, it mounts up really, really quickly. And then your fuel, like, I think my fuel bill's between it's around 18,000 a year, I think.
Yeah, more than mine.
And that's keeping it, like, as I said, I only run as much as I need to, and run as efficiently as I can. So, it's anyway. One other thing, what's happened to me recently, which is bugging me up. So, like with business, with the work, I start getting crook around Christmas, like this pain in my shoulders. Went from one shoulder to another shoulder to my neck. I thought, geez. And then into my hips. And I thought, oh, God. So then I Googled it. And I get in trouble for using Dr. Google. And come up with a thing called polymyalgia, which is swelling and inflammation of the big joints. Then I've done a number of tests and scans and whatever, and the rheumatologist, they said, well, you're too young. Even though the scans show you're positive for it, you're too young. It's not until you're 50 you get that. Well, so he thinks it's more rheumatoid arthritis. So I've actually got both, which is absolutely you know.
Now, my wife has rheumatoid arthritis, and it's a diagnosis which is sort of about excluding other diagnoses. So fibromyalgia and rheumatoid arthritis and a lot of those things often have overlapping symptoms.
Yeah.
Which either it's possible that you have both, or it's possible that it's misdiagnosed.
Mm.
And it's... I don't envy you because I know what my wife goes through with that, and it is hard work. It's like either of those diagnoses are really nasty to deal with.
Yeah. It's funny though, like the cell of the morning, my hands, and that's why you think it's more rheumatoid arthritis, because my hands and my wrists, I have a lot of trouble. Yeah. So I can't, over the morning, I can't pick the ramps up on a truck.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So I just can't handle the pressure in my wrist.
Yep.
So, I'm actually looking at getting hydraulic rams put on so that can do that lifting.
Yep.
But I can't straighten my fingers and hands right out, and then I can't make a full fist.
Ouch.
But until probably 10 o'clock, and then I'm fairly good. But if I get on the hedger, and within half an hour of doing hedging, my hands are free.
Okay.
But then if I push it too far, it goes the other way, and it'll affect me the next day.
Yeah.
So, I noticed there's a couple other people who actually have had some form of arthritis.
Yeah.
It's only been a short time. It's been popping up a bit more, it seems.
Yep.
And it's a bath-relating.
Yeah, it's nasty. And I've talked to one friend who said that dietary changes can have a pretty big impact on rheumatoid arthritis, but I'm not making any claims there myself. That was them saying that.
Yeah.
For most people, it's like the options are medication, and medication that is like cancer medication. It's literally like having chemotherapy. It's nasty stuff.
Yeah, well, I'm on methotrexate at the moment.
Yeah. And some of those medications come with warnings like don't get this on your skin, even though you're injecting it into your body.
Yeah.
That's nasty.
I thought the hardest one was going to be, not to, you're not meant to really drink any more than 3 or 4 drinks a week.
Yeah.
Also, the methotrexate makes you more subject to getting sunburn.
Yes.
So, Jesus, I work out in the sun.
So does that mean you wear long sleeves, long pants all the time?
I've worn long sleeves for since I was 14 because I had bad burns on my right arm.
Yeah.
When I was a kid. So I've always worn long sleeves, so it doesn't bother me.
Yep.
Over the last probably 3 or 4 years, I've started wearing long pants during the summer.
Yeah. From
about 10 till 3 because my legs are just getting burnt. They're just getting crispy.
Yeah.
So I just thought, no, I'm just going to start wearing long pants. And because sunscreen doesn't cut it. I don't care what anyone says.
Oh, yeah. Sunscreen is horrible to use in our industry. There's no good sunscreens. They just all turn to mud.
Yeah. So I'm covered up for quite a bit.
Yeah.
And those, through the middle of the day, that's when I will, like I generally don't do hedging or any of the laborious types of work through the middle of the day because that's the heat. So you've got to manage your heat,
yep.
Sort of stress a bit. So I'm just sitting on the ride all most of the time, and it doesn't ever bother me.
Yeah. So if you know you're going to do a physically challenging job, do it earlier in the day, get it over and done with. Yeah.
Well, up here, humidity can be 70% at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
So I generally do all my hedging in the evening.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's sort of. I find that a lot easier.
Fair enough.
Unless sometimes you're just at that job and you have to do it. So, yeah. But
So does that mean if you get a fairly hot summer like we've had, where the days are often 30 degrees plus sort of in the afternoon, you get there and go, okay, I'm not going to be able to do the hedge jobs while it's this hot?
No, like I'll just leave the hedging through summer because it's light until 8 o'clock.
Yep.
I might, if it's a 2-hour hedging job, I might start it at 6 o'clock in the evening.
Yeah, okay.
And I'll stay there until I'm done.
Yeah.
Because it's nice and cool.
Yep.
There's a lot less humidity late in the afternoon, like that.
Yeah.
So, it's and people understand. They go, "Oh, well, it's pretty smart actually doing it in the cool." Yeah, it is.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah.
I was just looking through my accounting to try and compare our fuel usage for the year, because you said you're up around 18,000 for the year. I split mine in my accounting package between motor vehicle fuel and equipment fuel. So I've got, for this financial year so far, 2,700 in equipment fuel, 5,000 in motor vehicle fuel.
Jeez.
Yeah. It's
some of my monthly bills are $2,500. Even I think I've pushed to $3,000 nearly 1 month there.
Yeah, wow.
I'm really pushing hard.
Yep.
I'm
guessing motor vehicle wise, you're probably comparable to me, because I'm around that 5,000 at the moment, which means it's probably going to hit $6,000-$7,000 in fuel for the whole year for the motor vehicle.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I use around 15, 16 litres per 100.
Yeah.
I don't. It's a V8 Cruiser, but I don't pump it.
Yeah.
If you just let them just do their work, they're fine. They don't really use too much.
Yeah. I found that when I had a Cruiser, it didn't matter whether I was towing a trailer or not. I was using up around the 15, 16 litres per 100.
All right. I know if I run empty, I can get it down to 12.
Yeah.
After not towing, I mean.
Yep.
So, you know.
Yeah, that's decent.
Yeah, it's as I said, if you don't thump them, they're just so much better and they last longer. Right, I've had that. So my Cruiser's coming up on having 400,000 k's on it.
Yeah, wow.
I've had it 13 years.
Yep.
And I do the maintenance to it. I just had to do the diff here a couple of months ago. I think I've done the injectors on it 2 years ago.
Yep.
So, it's just regular maintenance. And it doesn't matter what it is. You just got to do the maintenance. Some of them you've got to do more often because they're not made for it.
Yeah, that's it.
My first ute is a Ford Courier. I absolutely destroyed it.
Yeah.
4 heads, 4 gearboxes, 3 heads, a diff, the rear chassis.
This is one of the things that I think is really worth pointing out, and I would hope that, I almost wish we'd talked about this right at the first 5 minutes of the podcast, but if you buy equipment that is not the right equipment for the job, it costs you more money in repairs and maintenance than what it costs to buy it outright. So your Ford Courier probably cost you less than $20,000, but the Land Cruiser probably would have cost you $100,000, and the maintenance and ongoing costs would be the opposite.
So my Courier cost me 12, and I can't remember how much it cost me over the time.
Yeah.
There's at least $4,000 to rebuild the gearbox.
Yeah.
I think it was about 3 for the head each time.
Yeah, multiple times.
The Cruiser, because I bought it second hand, she had 150 on it.
Yeah.
It cost me $40,000.
Yeah.
That
must have been pre-COVID, of course.
That was in 2010.
Yeah.
I bought that.
Yep.
And then I've only done it was only $1,800 to do a whole new diff in a whole diff center.
Yep.
The injectors were about $3,000.
Yep.
I had to redo the seals and bearings. The transfer case, but that was only $1,000. Yep. So it's not much has been spent on the Cruiser. But and I actually went round to, I don't know, there's probably half a dozen mechanics I know in town, Or, I respect what they think.
Yeah.
And I said, for what I'm doing, what should I buy? They said, anything but a cruiser, you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
Because they're the only one that are built. They're built like a truck.
Well, that's the next option is to go from the cruiser to a truck. And I think that's what Corey's done, right?
No, Corey's actually bought a cruiser.
Oh, okay, so he's gone from the truck back to a cruiser.
Yeah, he bought a Ford Mitsubishi Triton, and he had a big, huge trailer that he was towing 3 tons, and she was working so hard, it was overheating all the time. And we had a chat, and he goes, "Oh, all right." So we went and bought a cruiser, and it doesn't seem to have as much power, as much punch, but it's not working as hard. So it's just, like he likes it. I know. But you do have to buy the right equipment for the right things. It's like people try and do a school oval with a 40-inch mower. Like, why?
Oh, there's so many times I have found myself doing that, going, all right, I've got the wrong equipment for the job. I need to get the right equipment for the job. And I think, that, like I said, these are the sorts of things that we should talk about right in the first 5 minutes of the podcast. But it really does make a world of difference to have the right tool for the right job, so that you can go, okay, this is going to save you money. Yeah.
Well, where I was doing the effluent paddock, where I bought 4,000 for, if I had have kept on using my 5.0, I would have destroyed that in 12 months.
Yeah.
Like, completely destroyed. It wouldn't have been, worth anything.
Yeah.
But I spent the money on the 4,000D, and I've still got it, and she still powers through it. And it just took, and then also I actually used it then for another 4 jobs that we were doing big hours on.
Yeah.
And it cut our time by half, because it was, because you cover so much ground.
Yep.
It was great.
I had a quick Google search for 4000D second hand, and with 3,000 to 4,000 hours on them, they're still asking 25 to 30 grand.
Really?
Yep.
Well, there you go. I paid 20 grand for mine.
You got a good buy.
Oh, I know it. It was in really good nick. I was lucky with it.
Yeah.
There was an auction the week before, same mower, same council, but it had spent its life down at Yamba on the sand, and it was just eaten out. The guy brought it. He's actually from Lismore.
Yeah.
And he paid 25 grand for it. Brought it up here, talking to one of the mower shops. He said, "I wanted this running, Mickey Mouse."
Yeah.
They spent another 15,000 on it.
Oh no!
And then
would have been better off buying a brand new one.
Oh no, they were 100. 100,000 brand new.
Yeah.
But then he was a fly-out worker, and he had a Macca farm. He just wanted to come back once every 3 weeks and run over his farm. Yeah. And he tried to do that a couple of times and goes, "This isn't working." So then he traded that in on a 100-horse tractor and a flail mulcher.
Yeah.
And that's what he should have bought to start with, because it just, he didn't have the time to spend on the thing. So
and a 100-horse tractor with a flail slasher probably would have cost him similar sort of money. Because he spent 40 grand on that Toro by the time he got it repaired.
Yeah, well, not a new tractor. Oh, I don't know what a new tractor is actually worth.
Yeah, if you get a new 100-horse tractor and a slasher, you're probably up around the $80,000 mark, actually.
Yeah.
If you new.
But it was the right machine.
Yeah.
But if he had kept on driving that 4,000 like that, he would have destroyed it, because they just won't do it. They're a lawn mower.
They're a finish mower.
Yeah. And that's what they do a really good job at, just trimming grass.
Yep.
Although they will, I have put mine through grass that's 4 foot high.
Yeah.
And they will do it, but it's something you don't like doing. But
yeah,
buy the right equipment and it'll last you. And you buy quality equipment.
Yep.
So
yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Well, I reckon that's a really good spot to finish up. How about you?
Yeah, right. No, it's
Is there anything else that we should be hitting on that you think we missed?
I think just for people getting into it, I think people shouldn't push too hard.
Yeah.
I think you should just. It's nice if work comes in, yeah, you take it, but you don't go chasing it and as in extending yourself and buying stuff in because look, you're spending money that you may not have, and then you've really got the pressure on to keep that working. And if you buy, I don't know, say 20 lawns, half those people just don't like you because they just don't. They like the other guy. You lost your money. So, but if work comes your way and hook in and go hard, but don't get too excited about and really push it to grow your business. Organically growing a business, and you grow with it, and your work, you can handle the workload that comes on with it. Yeah. Corey met someone. He was talking to another bloke about me, and just in regards to the workload that I do, and he said, "Well, for anyone to take on what Grant's doing, you need 3 people need to be doing it because, and that's it. If someone can't try to come in and take on my business, you need 3 to do it because I probably push myself too hard, but I've got other reasons like."
I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense there, and I think that the take-home message on that is to really make sure that you know what you're doing. So it's one thing to just go hard and not actually get things right, and that's where you crash and burn. It's another thing to go, okay, let's make sure we've got all of our ducks lined up properly so that when we're going hard, it's going in the right direction. Yeah.
And there's no use going hard and not getting anywhere. It's like if your lawns aren't priced properly, you're losing money.
I'm
about to have a conversation with a few clients now just because of other circumstances. They've lost a few lawns and whatever.
Yeah.
And so it makes other ones uneconomical. So, and go to have a conversation. And also the other big thing is to say no. That's what we were saying before. Knowing when to say no is a good thing, and when you've got a lot of work, it's a lot easier to say no.
Yep.
I think another one. What's a lot of people were saying about stepping outside your comfort zone, and you don't learn if you don't push yourself too.
Yeah.
And that's where when I took on the retaining walls, my daughter says to me, "Why do you do it? You work so bloody hard doing it." It's like it makes me think. Everything's the same basically, but it really makes you think every single time, and you're trying to make things look really Mickey Mouse because they're going to be there for a long time, hopefully.
Yeah.
And you want people to be super, proud and so you're always thinking with that, which. Same with a new lawn. They're always thinking of a new lawn. You're excited every time you get a new one.
Yeah.
That it's a challenge. And that's where I find that balance of the retaining walls in winter and then the mowing in summer. Now I've only been doing the retaining walls for 4 years.
Yeah.
So it's sort of I still really enjoy it as much as it's hard bloody work.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to step out and learn new things.
Yeah, and I think that talking about that is really relevant. And I know, like you said, some people are going to listen to what you talk about with the retaining walls and go, well, you're not doing it right, you're not licensed, you're a cowboy, whatever else. But like you're saying, push yourself to make sure that you know what you're doing in those jobs. Push yourself to learn how to do them properly and learn what is needed. And you obviously know what is needed. People listening and calling you a cowboy are going to have to check twice and go, okay, if you're making sure that whatever the retaining wall requirements are need to be met, and customers informed, the right person is employed to do an engineering and do a DA on those jobs, then you've learnt how to do that, and you've learnt something new, a new skill, and you've also learnt how to find the right person to do the right part of the job.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've had clients go, no, I don't want to do that. We just do it this way. It'll be fine. And I've just, no, I'm not doing that. Sorry.
My name's going on the right job, not the wrong job.
Yeah. It's not worth it because it comes back on me. And yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, that's just, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your time, Grant. It's been awesome talking to you.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly look, from 20 years of mowing and work, and other stuff that I used to do in the mines, it's so much you can talk about. And it's good. I like to share what I've learnt too.
Yep.
That's probably actually one of the biggest advice things I can. I'd like people to say, did you learn more from listening than you do from talking?
Yeah, and I'm going to agree with you 100% there. I've pumped out my 140th episode on this podcast this week, and the whole basis for my podcast is about learning from other people. So I don't sit there and try and tell people, hey, this is what I know. It's like, okay, we're going to interview somebody else. We're going to get Grant in today. Grant's going to be able to help you understand things from a different perspective than what I could if I just sit there rabbiting on about nothing.
Yeah.
So, definitely. I couldn't agree more. Listening to others, you learn so much.
Yep. So, anyway, hope someone gets something out of this.
We've got almost 2.5 hours of something for them to listen to.
Thank you for listening to Aussie Lawn Stars. Please remember to rate and review the show on the Apple Podcasts app or the player you use. Exciting new shows are released every Monday. Make sure you follow or subscribe to hear the next episode.